The White Sox organization has unofficially declared they're going to be patient with their top prospects development. Let's discuss how the recent roster cuts show that on today's episode of Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert at SouthsideShowdown.com, part of the Fansided Network. And also, I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure to hit the like button on today's episode. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already. And also follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Well, the discussion of whether to give the top prospects a major league runway or be patient has been discussed numerous times on the show, but yesterday's roster cuts have shown that the White Sox are now going to unofficially take the patient approach, and I want to discuss why that is a good thing in the first segment. Then let's dive into two concerns about the team being on display in yesterday's 3-0 spring training loss to the Giants, and finally, let's discuss some injury updates and what that could mean for the opening day roster. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Okay, so I don't want to sound like a broken record, as I know I've been hitting the prospect topic and I've been hitting it hard lately. But look, the future is all we got. I mean, if you look at the president, and those that are like hammering, the haters out there that say I'm being condescending or boring, first of all, look at the team. Is this team exactly exciting? No, I'm talking about the White Sox. I'm trying to inform you. I'm trying to challenge you. And yes, I am trying to entertain you. And I'm sorry, I'm not, doing weird dances and stuff. And for that, commenter who called me out and say, oh, he's condescending. All I said was, hey, if you think you're witty, go to an open mic night then, or go grab a podcast. Because sometimes it's not so witty. But when it comes to the prospect topic, again, the future is all we got. The hope, and again, being cautiously optimistic is fine. If you want to be fully optimistic, good, go for you. That's awesome. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. Yes, I'm going to get excited about a lot of these prospects, but I'm also going to know we shouldn't be fooled again. But, when it comes to informing you, I'm going to, go over a lot of the hope of the better days, on that type of stuff. And the White Sox made some more spring training roster cuts, and it means none of the team's heralded prospects, considering, that are close to the big leagues, will be on the opening day roster. Outside of Sean Burke, who still is prospect status, and he's in the top 15. He's going to be your opening day starter, and he'll be graduating soon. And maybe Chase Mydroth, the number 8 prospect, which I'll get to in a second, or get to in the third segment. Those are probably the only two that are going to be making the opening day roster. Otherwise, all the heralded prospects, like Colson Montgomery, Edgar Quero, and Kyle Teel, they're now going to be in minor league camp. Colson Montgomery was sent last week, and now joining him is Kyle Teel and Edgar Quero, as the team officially announced on their X, formerly Twitter account. And for those watching on YouTube, I do have the tweet up. Basically, the White Sox, Dominic Fletcher, he is going back to the minors, so he did not make the 26-man roster either. But they're sending Mason Adams, Justin Dunn, Jonathan Heasley. Where were you when the Jonathan Heasley announcement got made? I love how Sean Anderson tweeted that. But anyways, Peyton Polite, I thought he had maybe an outside chance of making the roster out of the bullpen, but, obviously had a couple of recent rough outings. But the big ones that stand out, Kyle Teel and Edgar Quero, they're going to back, they got reassigned to minor league camp. Andre Lipsius, Cal Mitchell, and then Zach Deloach and Corey Julks, they are going to minor league camp. So obviously they have elected to stay on the team, which to me makes a lot of sense for them because, hey, all you need is an injury and you're probably going to get called up. So why not stick with the White Sox? There's still an opportunity to get some playing time. I wouldn't elect free agency if I was any of these non-roster invites that were failed prospects. I'd still give it a shot. Go play at Charlotte, and that type of stuff. But you now have all the top 100 prospects in the minor league camp. We had I think it was 2 weeks ago, Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith. They got sent down after getting 2 spring training appearances. Grant Taylor got a couple of spring training appearances, who he'll probably likely be in the top 100 too at some point. He got sent to the minor league camp. I think it was last week. Stud outfielder Braden Montgomery, he was also sent to minor league camp, I believe, weeks ago. So what these demotions signal, and the reason why I'm just going over it is like this is basically the unofficial signal that, hey, we're now going to be patient with these prospects' development. And honestly, after living through so many hype prospects, failing to make a sustained impact, I'm all for this. And that's the thing that's getting missed. And maybe I'm just trying to hammer it home is not only should we be excited, but we should hold, again, the White Sox to the standard of not only developing these players, but develop them so that way they can have a sustained impact. And that's why I'm revisiting this. The big picture is now with a director of pitching and a director of hitting, you are establishing everyone playing the same version of baseball, top down. And I think that has to be established now as a standard of how many minor league at bats every hitter should get and what those expectations should be built in, just like how many innings should these pitchers get. In the case of Colson, his development plan has been so out of whack that it feels like he just needs a refresh standard. Just let's refresh his at-bat standard. Just go out and produce at Charlotte to earn your way. I think that's been established. But the consistent standards, it's nice to have that finally. It's one of the things this organization has lacked when it comes to development over the years. It's just been inconsistent standards. And that's why I'm tackling this topic again. I keep thinking what keeps being missed in all this hype is the organization can get guys to the show. I mean, getting to the show has never been a problem for the White Sox farm system. Plenty of guys have gotten to the majors. It's keeping them productive for years, especially the years that they have them under club control that has been the problem. And then side note, trading them away because the owner doesn't want to pay them. But for every Chris Sale, Dylan Cease, and Garrett Crochet, you get Eloy Jimenez, Andrew Vaughn, and Yohan Moncada. Notice a trend there? The Sox can fast-track their pitching, but it's been hitting that's always been their problem. I mean, think about it. When was the last stud hitter they really developed? I mean, really found. You could say Luis Robert Jr., but he's been injured, and also he was more of an older prospect when they found him. When was the last? Man, this guy's just a bona fide stud. Not Jose Abreu. Tim Anderson was trending that way, and then obviously all the personal issues got in the way, that type of stuff. I mean, I've said on, every day might remember. I think it's been like Magdalene Ordonez. And I got an email saying, hey, are you happy with Mike Shirley as the guy who's ahead of drafting? Yeah, I'm fine with Mike Shirley. I like his drafts. It's once he drafts them and hands them over, they've been not able to really develop these guys to have sustained success. And then what do? What does the owner do? He promotes the guy that was originally in charge of these guys having sustained success, and Chris gets the general manager. But maybe, again, he might be better at the big picture than, developing players. But the development has been shades of greatness, followed up by mostly developing replacement level or less play and guys that get injured a lot. And why not take a different approach and make sure your hitters understand what it takes to be a big league hitter? If you've brought in Ryan Fuller to be your director of hitting, why not take a page out of the Orioles development plan? Because what do the Baltimore Orioles do a lot? And what do they do very well? They develop hitting. Think about it. Gunnar Henderson had 1,087 plate appearances in the minors for the Orioles. Adley Rutschman had 780. So Adley Rutschman, a catcher, granted he was the first overall pick, but still Kyle Teel, he was a first round pick too. Kyle Teel's at 619 at bats or plate appearances. So while he looked ready during spring training, maybe it can't hurt to still give him another 100 or so at bats at AAA. And especially if you want him to get reps in the outfield, first base, and DH, as I've discussed, let's have him, try to reintroduce himself to the outfield because he played there in college a little bit. Let's have him do that maybe at AAA instead of the big league level, like what we saw the Sox try to do with Gavin Sheets and Andrew Vaughn. You remember that headache? You remember that adventure? I mean, and think about it. Sometimes you could say, well, a mistake in the outfield, it turns out to be a double. But especially with Vaughn and Sheets, when they made a mistake, it seemed like it would be a triple, or it would score the game-winning run, or it would put the team up by 4 or 5 more runs, it felt like. And this team, too, if they want to avoid another historic losing season, there's no margin for error. You can't just have Kyle Teel trying to remember how to play outfield again. And if he misses up, it's a double, because the next step, there's just no margin for error. They can't make up a ton of runs that they give up. The extra runs, the extra outs. And I'm talking about just avoiding an historic losing season. And think about it, too, when Vaughn and Sheets misplayed a ball in the outfield, the Sox were supposed to be good. And how many times did their gaffes lead to maybe an additional loss here and there and the team crumbling? So instead, you send Teel down so he can get just a few more at-bats and work on other positions because, again, you want Quero and Teel in the lineup every single day. One guy catches, the other guy could DH or plays first, or in Teel's case, plays left field because you don't want Andrew Benintendi, and I'll talk about it in the third segment. You don't want his glove in left field at all if you can avoid it. And in terms of Quero and Colson, now they actually have way more minor league plate appearances than Gunnar and Rutschman had. However, for example, when you look at Colson Montgomery and Gunnar Henderson's numbers in terms of their minor league production, Gunnar's numbers never declined so dramatic as he went up the ladder. He had a 302, 440, 547 slash line at AA. He then goes to AAA, 288, 390, 504 at AAA. Okay, Colson just rakes at A ball. Look at his numbers. Great numbers at A ball. But he goes to AA, 218, 350, 391. And then 214, 321, 381 at AAA last year. So that screams he needs more at-bats to work out those swing adjustments that they suggested. Why not give him those swing at-bats? And out of that, why don't you just Control-Alt-Delete? Say, okay. And I think that's what they're doing. They're saying, okay, we want you to make these adjustments. This is what we want you to do. Go down now to AAA and just produce. Just be you, dude. Produce. And maybe he'll never be a hit for average guy. Maybe he'll just be a power guy. That's fine. Let's work on that then, especially at a ballpark where the ball carries. Keep working on that type of stuff. And in the case of Quero, Rutschman got 238 plate appearances at AAA. Quero is at 110. And again, I know Rutschman, number 1 overall pick. And I know I'm talking about guys that are established, but again, if you want to have these guys winning Rookie of the Year, giving you extra draft picks, follow the path. Follow Ryan Fuller's path. He's come from the organization. So I do hope Ryan was like, hey, Quero could probably use another 200 plate appearances, 2 months, maybe even. He could use that down at AAA just to keep looking at some different pitches, keep seeing how they look differently. And I get that AAA pitching is way different than my, major league pitching. It's a step below, but still, why not just add a few more months of just seeing those more pitches before giving them a call? Because, these 3 hitters, the prevailing thing that needs to happen with these 3 guys is they need to be core guys. And not only core guys have sustained success. Yes, there's going to be ups and downs in terms of the growing pains and that type of stuff, but you want them to have sustained success. And, when I get back, just really quick, I wrote this note down too with Montgomery about just a reset, maybe just give him a fresh 2 months to just take a breath and just produce. Think about, this is where he's gotten his at-bats in terms of his plate appearances. 43% of his minor league plate appearances have come at high A or lower, 17% at AA, and the rest at Charlotte. So he's just all over the board. They've just never really given him a consistent, here, you're at AA for 4 months, just like, Gunnar Henderson had. He was at AA for a while. Not for a while, but you're going to get these plate appearances. This is what you're going to do, because this is kind of what development looks like. It's a standard. So, and I get to everyone develops at a different timeline, some faster than others, but you can't tell me Andrew Vaughn might have been a better hitter had he at least gotten some more at-bats in the minors. You can't tell me that. Because, you can also I think Andrew Vaughn maybe have picked up some bad habits, because that's the thing. You start to press those types of stuff. And he had trouble with spin pitches coming up, and he still has issues with spin pitches. And, maybe he could have had a little bit more confidence to hit some spin stuff, the changes, the curves, that type of stuff. Had he had a few more just minor league at bats to kind of see this is what they look like. And I get there's nothing lost if you have these guys up because the White Sox are going to lose. But what could be lost is they just become nothing more than replacement level players, where, again, the cautious side and being patient is, hey, let's just make sure they're checking all the boxes. These are the standards we want them to play, and then have exceptions if they're reaching, if they're playing at a high standard. Yes, you don't want to just be like, well, you have to have 700 at bats. If a guy is raking, yeah, you can fast track him. I get that. But establish those standards, and it feels like this organization is doing that. Well, two troubling trends were on display in yesterday's 3-0 spring training loss. Let's discuss what they are after the break on Locked On White Sox. When it comes to feeling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout. Got some right here. And I really got to start hitting the gym again. I think my wife and I were going to get a gym membership soon. Got to definitely get back in the gym. Got to start pumping some iron. So definitely want to check this out. I'm glad that they sent me some stuff. And Just Ingredients has partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. Just Ingredients prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk. Can't wait to put some of these protein powder in some of my smoothies that I make every morning. Whether you're recovering after a workout or need an energy boost, their grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout deliver real results. Visit justingredients.com. justingredients.us/Bryce-Harper and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off your first order. And for more wellness tips, follow @JustIngredients on Instagram. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, make sure to hit the like button on today's episode and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already. And if you can't catch the show on YouTube, Locked On White Sox is available on all major podcast platforms. So make sure to follow or subscribe on places such as Apple or Spotify. Either way, get your 30-minute fix of Chicago White Sox baseball venting with me. So two major troubling trends were on display in yesterday's spring training game. Jonathan Cannon looked shaky again, and the offense did not do much. The offense, hey, they've improved from dead last when the spring training season started to the upper 20s in terms of like average, OPS, that type of stuff. They're getting up, but scoring runs, still a chore. The Sox bats went 0 for 7, and they let Justin Verlander turn back the clock. Daryl Van Schouwen, soon to be wrapping up Chicago Sun-Times beat reporter. Thank you for everything that you've done, Daryl. But at CST_Sox fan, he tweeted this out. Meanwhile, Justin Verlander, 42, out there tossing 5 innings of scoreless ball with 6 strikeouts for the Giants. He was filthy out there from what I read, because this was a game where, one of the things, again, that we can, just getting the weight protein down. One of the things that when you own your own RSN, you can broadcast all these games if you want. And this game was not available. It wasn't available, on CHSN. Wasn't available on MLB TV because the Giants and CHSN wasn't carrying it. And it wasn't available via audio on either. I don't get why Major League Baseball makes it so hard to obtain their product. It would have been nice to catch the game. Yes, I like watching what's going on. I know it's spring training, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But when it comes to some trends, the White Sox have scored just 105 runs. And I'll discuss Jonathan Cannon's view on his spring, and basically what he says is, process matters. So if process matters, well, the process of getting better in terms of getting hits and getting guys on base, yeah, that's starting to show as the Sox offense is climbing up the rankings, in hits and on base percentage. But runs, only the Cardinals, the Braves, and the Mets have scored less. So why this matters too, 505 runs in 2024 is going to equal you, obviously, 121 losses. We saw it. So if you want to avoid another historic losing season, the run differential has to be cut, and just scoring more runs has to they have to get better at it. And they've been struggling mightily, especially with runners in scoring position. That has to get better because, again, the Moneyball basics that they've constructed this roster to be, that this hitting order to be, is they've gone back to Moneyball basics in terms of getting guys who get on base. But you know what the next thing that has to happen? Guys have to score runs. got to get guy on base to home. So that's been a troubling trend for them. In terms of Cannon, he has a 10.32 ERA in spring training. Not great, Bob, especially when his peers in the rotation, Sean Burke, Davis Martin, Martin Perez, they've looked crisp, and they look ready for the season. Even the fifth starter candidates in Shane Smith and Bryce Wilson, they've looked pretty solid too. But Cannon has looked awful. However, as he keeps pointing out, it's process over results at this point. And this is the post-game presser quote he gave to beat reporters. The Chicago Sun-Times beat reporter, again, Daryl Van Schouwen, and he had it up on X for me Twitter. But here's what he said, quote, kind of going through it a little. Feels like the stuff is there. The command has been a little bit off. Still feel like I'm getting the feel for some things. The results are not as important as the process. Looking at the process today, fell behind a lot of guys, not a recipe for success. And that is the stuff I kind of look to improve upon going forward, end quote. So if he gets another official spring training start before his first regular season start, which if I'm going off results and process, you go Burke, Martin, Perez, and then March 31st, that's when Cannon gets the ball against the Twins. So you want to, if he gets a start, another official spring training start before March 31st, you want to obviously see him not getting behind in the count, not issuing 3 walks like he did yesterday, and needs to stop giving up the long ball too, as he's given up 4 dingers. And again, that's part of the process. If he's judging himself on the process, you want to see him tightening up the process before March 31st. But I agree, right now it's just him getting his feel for his pitches. And I am worried about the bats. I'm not so concerned with Cannon as the results, as the reason for spring training is pitchers need to get ready to handle a big league workload. Basically, spring training is that's what exists. It exists for the pitchers. So I'd rather him work on getting a feel for his pitches, and then, hopefully gets it sooner rather than later before March 31st, and he's ready to go. And hopefully he makes, definitely gets that feel for his pitches by mid-April at least, because he's got to keep opposing teams to at least 4 runs or less. Anything beyond 4, and I'm being a little generous there, that's going to be troubling because as we've seen right now, the offense is trending towards really struggling to score runs. Well, Andrew Benintendi, he wasn't kidding around when he said he was focused on being ready by opening day after breaking his hand. He's taking live BP and will get some at-bats on Wednesday. Let's discuss how his potential return and Josh Rojas' big toe having a fracture could impact the opening day lineup after the break on Locked On White Sox. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you'll need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts in every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, shout out to all the everydayers. I do appreciate your loyalty. Please hit the like button on today's episode. Recommend to your fellow Sox fans or baseball fans, friends, to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox, wherever they get their podcasts, as this show is available on all major podcast platforms. And feel free to leave a 5-star review. Let's get our 4.5 rating up. And again, shout out to, let me grab the email here. We got some shout outs here to give. It's FeedSpot. FeedSpot has listed us among the top 15 Chicago White Sox podcasts. Make sure to go to podcastfeedspot.com, Chicago White Sox podcast, to check out all the great White Sox podcasts they have. And I always say, We got some great White Sox podcasts here. Feel free to check them out. Just make me your first listen. Well, I'm not a fan of Andrew Benintendi rushing himself back from a broken hand to play on opening day. I know for the first half of baseball last year, he was the worst hitter in the game, so I should just not be a fan of Andrew Benintendi at all. But strong second half, where he led the team in homers, may have shown something has been revived, and maybe he can at least be adequate for the rest of his largest contract in Sox history. So we still got 3 more years to go on that, baby. And remember, when he signed that relatively modest deal, yet massive for the White Sox, in 2023, his numbers crashed dramatically, and it was in part due, he had a hand injury. He said he was dealing with an injury. He's hitting 300 in 2022, has a hand injury, not very effective. Although hitting like 260, that is relative to his salary. But when you're the highest paid player in franchise history, you got to produce more, obviously, or at least that's the expectation. And the first half, he was supposedly playing through an injury, an Achilles injury. So clearly, even him giving 100% of whatever 80% or 85% he's at in terms of health is not good enough. So why rush it? He's just not one of those guys. You can tell. I give him credit for trying to play through injuries, but some guys can do it and be productive. He can't. But he's saying he's feeling good and could be ready for opening day. Infielder Josh Rojas, though, might not be ready for opening day as he's in a walking boot right now with a hairline fracture in his big toe. And both of these tidbits will alter, again, how the initial roster comes out. In terms of Benintendi, here's what he said via MLB.com's White Sox beat reporter Scott Merkin. Quote, "I feel a lot better than I anticipated," Benintendi said. "Things kind of progressed better than we thought. The bone itself is healed. At this point, it's just pain tolerance. It probably won't feel 100% until the 4 to 6 weeks, whatever it is. The swing right now, not so much of an issue at all. Definitely don't want to miss opening day and things like that. You want to be in the clubhouse with these guys playing. If it takes a little pain swinging a bat to do it, so be it. Any opening day is exciting, a start of a new chapter. Everybody's excited to get out there and play meaningful games," end quote. Well, the thing is, Andrew, so be it. This lineup needs pop wherever it can get it for the entire season, not a ceremonial game, because that, opening day is 1 of 162. So that's why I don't want to get this rush because, hey, I got to play in an exciting opening day game. I'm more concerned that, is this going to, again, lead to another 2023 issue where, again, he's not hitting home runs and he's just basically a replacement level player, or is he even going to be worse? Because I don't want to see that version of Andrew Benintendi ever again. I don't want to see that 2023 guy in that first half of the 2024. I want to see second half Andrew Benintendi, who's hitting home runs, who's actually doing okay. And he's not good enough to overcome injuries that leave him less than the figurative, say, 90 to 95% that all players usually play with. All players are playing with aches and pains. But like I've said, some guys can function well if they have, a hurt hand. They can still do it. But Benintendi has proven I don't think he can. And that's why it's like, why rush it? But if he is ready to at least hit, then I think that moves Brian Ramos to the minors, because I don't think they need Benintendi in left to start the season, since you can platoon Michael A. Taylor or Travis Jankowski there. Like you don't need Andrew Benintendi at all in the outfield with what you got. At least you got some guys that can catch the ball. And if Austin Slater, who took live BP yesterday along with Benintendi, after his timeline of being out 2 to 3 weeks with an oblique injury, he's hoping to play on Wednesday. If he's available too by opening day, you can have Benintendi then be the DH. But I'm still worried, can he make contact? But I think that would push then Ramos down to AAA, because I think then you got to give the DH at bats to Benintendi, because at least when you look at his splits, he hits well against, he hits okay career-wise against lefties and righties. You don't need to put him down, but you can cover then left field with Taylor, Slater, and Jankowski. For the infield, though, Rojas is being reported as day-to-day, but as Scott Merkin tweeted this out, for those watching on YouTube, I got it up. At Scott Merkin, Josh Rojas has a hairline fracture in his right big toe, per Will Venable. It sounds as if it's a pain-tolerant situation, and right now he's dealing with some pain. So I think if you're in a walking boot and opening day is next week, you have options. I don't think you need to rush him back, because you need his glove, whether it's at second or, again, ideally third. But I just don't want anything limiting his range. And you got Brandon Drury and at least Lenny Sosa at second base to potentially produce offense. So you can cover that. And Chase Maedroth and Jacob Amaya, maybe you platoon them at short. I mean, and ideally, and it's not a great ideal, if Rojas was healthy, you're playing him at short, even though that's his weakest defensive position. You go with Sosa and Drury Platoon at second, and then you got Vargas at third. But at least you're getting offensive production there. But now I think you got to start Maedroth at short to start the season. If he still can't, hit to match his walking ability, you can always demote him once Rojas is fully healed. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast with hosts Dominic Martino and Matthew One. MLB Fantasy Draft season is here. Be the most informed fan and set yourself up for a league win. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And I'll be back tomorrow to discuss what I wanted to tackle today before the recent roster cuts were announced yesterday, and that is Baseball America's top 100 players. The list is out. And it doesn't have a single White Sox player, but it does have a lot of former ones on it. Feel free to leave comments about today's discussion regarding the Sox officially declaring they'll be patient with their top prospects development, 2 concerning trends being on display in yesterday's loss, and injury updates on Andrew Benintendi and Josh Rojas. You can leave them at the episode page on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, at Todd J. Dub, or at Locked On Sox, or you can email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.